What if the future of surgical training wasn't locked away in some super expensive lab, but was actually already sitting right there on your desk? So today, let's talk about SurgiX, a pretty revolutionary platform that uses the webcam you probably have right now to completely reshape how we train our next generation of surgeons. This question really gets to the heart of a massive dilemma in modern medicine. How do you give surgeons the hands-on practice they absolutely need when the whole process is risky, ethically complicated, and, let's be honest, incredibly expensive? It's a fundamental challenge that's really had medical education in a tough spot for decades. And look, we're not just talking about one little problem here. We're talking about a full-blown training crisis that's built on four huge barriers that have been holding back surgical education for years. So let's peel back each of these layers and really understand the full picture.
All right, first up, access. It is a massive problem. Surgical trainees just don't get nearly enough time in actual operating rooms. This lack of real, hands-on practice creates this dangerous experience gap between their training and that moment they're supposed to lead a critical procedure. And that gap, well, it can have very real consequences for patient safety down the line.
Then, of course, you've got the ethical side of things. Patient safety is and should be the #1 priority, period. But that means there are strict limits on letting trainees practice high-risk moves on actual patients. It's a necessary safeguard, but it creates a total catch-22, right? How can you ever master a complex procedure if you're never really allowed to practice it?
The third barrier is measurement. For decades, figuring out how good a surgeon is has been frustratingly subjective. It often just boils down to one senior surgeon's opinion or their gut feeling. There's been a complete lack of standardized objective data to prove someone is truly competent or to even track how they're improving over time. And finally, we hit a giant financial wall. The gold standard for training has always been these high-fidelity physical simulators. But these machines are so incredibly expensive that they basically create a two-tiered system where only the wealthiest institutions can afford them, leaving pretty much everyone else behind. And when we say expensive, we mean it. A single one of these advanced simulators can run you over $100,000. That price tag alone makes widespread, fair training almost impossible. So the system is just completely bottlenecked by access, safety, subjectivity, and cost. So, how on earth do you solve all four of those problems at once? Well, that is the exact question that led to SurgiX. It's a revolutionary approach that's been designed from the ground up to tear down every single one of those barriers. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got the old way. Expensive, specialized hardware locked away in a lab with subjective feedback. And then you have SurgiX. It uses any standard webcam. You can access it from anywhere in a browser. And get this, it replaces that subjective opinion with objective AI-powered assessment, all at zero cost to the student. Okay, so you're probably thinking, how can a simple webcam do all that? It sounds kind of like magic, right? But it's not. The reality is a really clever 5-step learning journey that creates a complete feedback loop for the student. So here's how it works. First, your webcam just watches your hands. No fancy gloves, no sensors, none of that. You then use those hand movements to perform procedures in a realistic 3D surgical world. Now here's the absolute game changer. As you're working, an AI is analyzing your technique in real time. It's not just looking at if you did the task, but how you did it. It's measuring your precision, the economy of your motion, things like that. Your performance then gets scored against real international standards. And finally, all of that objective data gets logged in your own personal e-portfolio. It's a complete data-driven feedback loop. And what makes this so powerful is that it's not just a cool piece of technology. SurgiX is actually built on the most current evidence-based standards in medical education, which makes sure that the training is meaningful and directly relevant to a surgeon's career. The first standard is something called CBME, or competency-based medical education. The idea is really simple but profound. You should advance based on demonstrating you have the skills, not just on how many hours you've put in. It's all about what you can do, not how long you've been around. And that CBME idea is built on what are called EPAs, or Entrustable Professional Activities. Think of these as the specific, defined tasks a professional needs to master. Like, can you perform a certain type of suture perfectly? SurgiX directly measures a student's ability to perform these EPAs, giving clear, hard proof that they can be trusted to do the job on their own. Okay, so we've got this powerful, accessible, and academically solid platform. So what's the end game? Well, the vision is nothing less than transforming medical education on a global scale. And they are not starting small. The goal is to reach over 10,000 students in the very first pilot year alone. That's some serious ambition right out of the gate. And because it's just a browser-based platform, the potential for scale is just massive. We're talking about reaching over 100 medical schools worldwide, instantly breaking down all those geographic and financial barriers we were just talking about. And this number? This is the economic game changer. Surgix offers an estimated 50% cost reduction for institutions. Think about that $100,000 simulator again. This just completely flips the script and democratizes access to elite training for everyone.
And listen, this is far from just an idea on a whiteboard. There's a clear, solid plan to make it happen. The 2026 roadmap is aggressive. They're going to refine the prototype, develop the surgical scenarios, integrate that whole competency framework, and launch the pilot program with universities, all within the year.
And I think this brings us to a really powerful statement from the project's creators themselves. Surgix is not a concept, it's the future of practical medical education. It's already working, and it's getting ready to completely redefine what it means to train great surgeons. So I'll leave you with this final thought. What if the key to training better surgeons everywhere isn't in some multi-million-dollar simulation center, but is already sitting on your desk? What if the future of surgery is practicing on the very same device you're watching this on right now?